Emma never hated her job, but she never loved it either. Every day felt the same, waking up to the sound of her alarm, dragging herself to work, answering emails, sitting through endless meetings about things she didn't care about, and clocking out at the end of the day feeling empty. She used to be inspired by motivational quotes, those little nuggets of wisdom that were supposed to push you beyond your limits. Back in college, they gave her a sense of purpose, something to chase after. But now they felt like nothing more than decoration on a wall she passed by every day without really noticing. At 24, life was comfortable, safe even. But somewhere deep inside, Emma knew something wasn't right. There was an ache, a quiet longing, like life was passing her by while she stayed stuck in the same place. Then, one night, as she sat alone in her apartment scrolling through her phone, she stumbled across a video. A gorilla. It was in the jungle, standing on the edge of a ravine. Without a second thought, it leapt. The gap was wide, the fall dangerous, but the gorilla didn't hesitate. It just jumped, landing on the other side with power and grace. She watched it again and again. The more she watched, the more something inside her stirred. The gorilla didn't think twice. It made its move, trusting that it could make it across. And in that moment, Emma realized something. She had been standing on the edge for too long, waiting for the perfect moment. Maybe it was time for her to take her leap. The thought of it terrified her, but also excited her. For the first time in months, she felt something real, something more than the routine of her day-to-day life. It was as if, in the span of a few seconds, that one jump had awakened something in her. The next few days were a blur of thoughts. Emma couldn't shake the image of the gorilla in midair, frozen in time before the landing. She had always dreamed of starting her own business, but the idea had seemed so out of reach, too risky, too far-fetched. But now she couldn't stop thinking about it. She kept asking herself, what if I could make it happen? She had always been a fan of fitness and eco-friendly products, and there was something in her gut that told her those two passions could intersect in a way that no one had thought of yet. What if she created something new, something bold, something that represented the strength and courage she had seen in that gorilla's leap? It wasn't just about selling products. It was about creating a movement, a brand that stood for taking risks, embracing challenges, and being bold enough to leap when others stayed safely behind. She envisioned a line of eco-friendly, jungle-inspired fitness gear, gloves, mats, water bottles, products that didn't just serve a purpose but inspired a lifestyle. But of course, there were doubts. Would anyone really buy this? Am I just another person with a pipe dream? What if I fail? The fear was paralyzing, but in a strange way, it pushed her forward. Every time the doubt crept in, she remembered the gorilla, the leap, the courage. She started researching. She found suppliers for sustainable materials, researched the best marketing strategies, and scoured the internet for any sign that someone had done something similar. But nothing. It was a niche no one had explored, and maybe that's what made her believe it could work. Still, she wasn't ready to jump just yet. She was terrified. But then she remembered, this is my leap. And maybe, just maybe, it was the only chance she had to change everything. The first few months were harder than she could have imagined. Emma had underestimated how much work it would take to build a business from scratch. There were countless nights of research, long hours spent setting up a website, and endless emails to suppliers, most of whom didn't even respond. Her savings started to dwindle as she invested in the business, buying inventory, securing the website domain, and creating the product designs. But with every setback, every roadblock, there was a feeling deep inside her that kept her going. She couldn't quit now. She had come too far. But the reality was harsh. She faced issues with her suppliers, delays with shipments, and even when her first products arrived, they weren't quite what she had hoped. The materials were imperfect. The quality wasn't exactly what she'd envisioned. Every flaw felt like a failure, And there were moments when she thought about throwing in the towel. And then there was the question of sales, or rather, the lack of them. The first few weeks were a blur of 0 orders, not one. She spent hours tweaking her website, optimizing it for search engines, trying to get the word out on social media, but the response was minimal. The fear was starting to settle in. Maybe this was just a pipe dream. She thought about giving up. What if she wasn't cut out for this? What if the leap she'd taken was too risky after all? But then one afternoon, she received a notification on her phone. A fitness influencer had posted a story wearing one of her Gorilla Grip gloves. It was a simple post, nothing fancy, but it was enough to send a wave of excitement through her. It wasn't a huge viral moment yet, but it was the breakthrough she needed. Orders started to trickle in. They weren't pouring in, but it was enough to show her that there was interest. Her product wasn't just a wild idea, it had potential. And for the first time in months, Emma felt a surge of hope. She wasn't there yet, but she was on her way. It was the beginning of something real. The breakthrough came when Emma least expected it. After months of struggles, her hard work started to pay off in small but significant ways. She had just finished tweaking her website for what felt like the 100th time when she received a notification on her phone. A fitness influencer, someone with thousands of followers, had posted a story wearing her Gorilla Grip gloves. The post was simple, just a quick selfie with a caption about how comfortable and durable the gloves were. But to Emma, it felt like a goldmine. Her heart raced as she stared at the screen. She had sent countless outreach emails, tried to connect with influencers, and hoped for a moment like this. And now, here it was. It wasn't a massive viral campaign, but it was a start. It was real proof that people were noticing her product. Soon after, the first few orders began to trickle in. They weren't overwhelming, but they were enough to prove that the market existed. Her business wasn't just some pipe dream, it had the potential to grow. Emma couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. For the first time in months, her hard work felt validated. She wasn't just building a brand anymore, she was building a movement. She knew it was far from the finish line, but seeing those initial orders was a turning point. The trickle of sales turned into a flood over the next few weeks. More influencers shared posts, more people began talking about the products, and more fitness enthusiasts were showing up on her website. Emma's brand was starting to resonate. It was no longer just about selling fitness gear. It was about being part of something bigger, a brand that stood for strength, courage, and daring to take that first leap. By the time Emma reached her 30th birthday, the transformation was complete. Her brand, G-Leap Gear, was no longer a small startup. It had become a symbol of boldness and resilience. Fitness enthusiasts, eco-conscious individuals, and even celebrities were now flocking to her products. What started as a side hustle had evolved into a thriving multi-million-dollar business. Emma's success didn't just come from selling products. It came from the vision she had cultivated. She had built a brand that stood for something powerful: strength, courage, and the willingness to take risks. Her products were no longer just fitness gear. They were a reminder to embrace challenges, to leap, and to trust yourself in the face of uncertainty. The media took notice. Emma was invited to speak at major conferences, appeared on podcasts, and even featured in some of the top business publications. Her story of going from a regular office job to a self-made millionaire inspired countless others who were stuck in their own comfort zones, afraid to take that leap. She became a beacon for entrepreneurs everywhere, proving that with enough determination, anything was possible. But success wasn't just about the numbers. It was about the impact Emma was making in the world. She didn't just want to profit, she wanted to give back. As her business grew, so did her commitment to making a difference. Emma invested a significant portion of her earnings into wildlife conservation efforts, particularly in gorilla sanctuaries. Her brand had come full circle, paying homage to the animal that had inspired her to take that first leap. By 30, Emma had achieved far more than she had ever dreamed. She wasn't just a millionaire. She was a force of nature, a living example of how taking that one bold leap could completely reshape your life. And she wasn't done yet. There were still so many more leaps to take, and she was ready for every single one. Emma's story wasn't just about one person's success. It was a message for everyone watching. It was a reminder that sometimes the scariest leaps are the ones that can change everything. When we're too comfortable, too afraid of the unknown, we stay in the safe zone, watching life pass by. But those who dare to take the leap, who push themselves beyond their limits, are the ones who achieve the most extraordinary things. What's your leap? What's that thing you've been dreaming about? The one that scares you? The one you've been too afraid to chase? Maybe it's starting a business, moving to a new city, or pursuing a passion you've kept hidden. Whatever it is, know this: you're never going to get to the other side of the ravine unless you take that first step. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until everything feels easy. The leap isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to take that risk, even when you don't know exactly what will happen. Emma did it. She took the leap. And now she's living proof that with courage, determination, and a little bit of wildness, you can transform your life in ways you never imagined. So, what's stopping you? It's time to make your leap. If Emma's story inspired you, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that push the boundaries of what's possible.